Hi, my name's Pat Huffnail-Smith, and I'm a consultant working with Careers in Energy on a project entitled Bridging the Gap. This project has been designed to connect job seekers with employment opportunities in the energy services sector. These recorded information series are specifically to provide job seekers with more information about the kinds of job opportunities in the sector and how best prepare for engaging in our hiring events and taking on a career within the energy services sector. This recording is called Making the Most of Your Energy Services Career, and the project is funded by the Government of Alberta in partnership with the Government of Canada to provide employment support services and programs. This recording builds on the information shared in the first recording, which really was information about the energy services sector and the career opportunities, including the technical, interpersonal, and communication skills required, as well as the work environment associated with the sector. For this recording, we're going to talk about the benefits associated with an energy services career, the kind of career path or progression that's available. We're also going to share some tips and tools around how to make the unique work environment work for you. If you listen to the first recording, you'll know that a lot of the work associated with the energy services sector is outdoor and requires rotational assignments where you're living and working away from home for periods of time. And finally, we'll share some resources that can further support your career research and preparation for energy services employment. Benefits associated with an energy services career. First of all, jobs are well compensated, and that goes beyond an above average wage to also include comprehensive benefits and a very solid training, supported training finances. Also, if you need to be away from work, which is very likely the case, there's financial support for you to travel and the accommodations associated while you're working away from home. Many companies also, if they find a need to move an employee to a service hub, that move or relocation is fully funded. There's a variety of jobs and work arrangements associated with the sector, as well as contractual options. So this might be of particular interest to workers that are perhaps working in other seasonal industries, such as construction, forestry, wildfire fighting, agriculture. There may be opportunities within the energy services sector that will help offset the seasonality of work in some of those other industries. Employers are willing to hire and train inexperienced workers, those that are coming to the job that are deemed to be a good fit. And when I mean fit, I mean are prepared to work in a safety-sensitive environment, are mechanically inclined, able to do physical work, and are also prepared to engage in those unique work environments that I had mentioned earlier, namely working outdoors and working away from home for periods of time. The other thing that's important to understand is that due to the safety nature associated with the sector and with the work, there are pre-employment testing involved. So that could be physical kind of testing, but it always involves drug and alcohol testing to ensure that anybody going on site is fit for duty. There also are a number of foot in the door opportunities that offer career progression. And these are opportunities that don't necessarily need a vast amount of post-secondary training. Rather, you can engage in employment with short-term training that qualifies you for a number of entry-level jobs, an opportunity to leverage transferable skills and knowledge that you may have garnered in other like kinds of industries. So those would be things like construction, forestry, military, mining, again, where safety sensitivity, working outdoors, perhaps some physical labor, are also important. The other interesting thing about the kinds of career progression that's available in the sector is the global opportunities with international companies. Some of the energy services companies, some that you might be familiar with, like Halliburton and Schlumberger, are some of the largest multinational companies and therefore have employment opportunities across the globe. And that may be something you'd be interested in pursuing as part of your career progression in the sector. So a little bit more about why people can take those foot in the door opportunities with little training or experience and benefit or from the kinds of career progression there is in the sector. First and foremost, it's because field crews are hierarchical, and this kind of design allows for companies to prioritize safety on the job, where they can bring in workers that have that aptitude, provide them safety training, and where there's opportunity to learn from more experienced workers on the crew. So it allows for building skills and the appropriate kinds of practices to ensure safe operations. Again, inexperienced workers are likely to start in those entry-level positions, and the kinds of job titles that you would want to look for are those that maybe have laborer or an operator in training or an apprenticeship associated with the job title. Those would be good signals that those are entry level. And even if you aren't experienced in the energy sector, you could very easily qualify to work in the industry. Typically, the training for entry-level positions, as I mentioned, will include safety certification and really learning from the experience of more senior crew members on the job. To sort of demonstrate what this looks like in the field, we're going to focus on 3 in-demand career opportunities, those associated with the drilling rig, with the service rig, and also those that are involved in the energy services operations. Let's first talk about drilling rig crews. So a drilling rig is the large piece of equipment that goes on site and drills the well subsurface to tap into the oil and gas reserves found deep, deep underground. And so there's typically 5 positions on a drilling rig crew that is overseen by a rig manager. And so as the career path here in this graphic demonstrates, an entry-level position on a drilling rig is a lease hand. And coming into the job as a lease hand, your key responsibilities are going to be engaging in that safety training, helping out by doing some general labor, equipment maintenance, and really learning on the job from those that are in the other positions, more experienced positions on the drill rig crew. To progress through the different kinds of positions comes with learning on the job and being ready to take on increased responsibility in terms of the kinds of equipment you're assembling, including some of the safety equipment that you find on the drilling rig, and just really learning on the job and gaining experience so that you can have competency at one level and ready to move on to the other. Drilling rigs typically operate 24/7, and that means that there's usually 2 to 3 crews assigned to a rig working 12-hour shifts, so that there can be an alternating of day and night crews as well as a crew that's off. The typical rotation is 14 days on, 7 days off. And as we'd mentioned earlier, you're living away from home. And so accommodations, meals, that kind of stuff associated with while you're working away are covered by the employer. We've added some links here that will take you to more information about the roles and responsibilities on the drilling rig, a recommended wage schedule, and also the opportunity here to hear directly from a drilling rig worker and what their career progression looked like. I'll share with you at the end where you can access the slides and therefore have access to the links as well. The next career path I want to talk about is the service rig crew. And so the service rig, once the well is drilled by the drilling rig crew, the service rig will come on and line the rig, the wells, pardon me, with piping. And so that is done with a mobile piece of equipment that's smaller than a drilling rig. And so with the mobility associated with a service rig, a typical day starts with the crew meeting at a central location, but you go home each night or to a home base each night. And therefore, most crews live near a service rig yard or a key operations center. There are typically 4 positions associated with a service rig crew. The entry-level role is that of a floor hand, very similar to on a drill rig. The real key responsibilities for that entry-level position is to do the training, help out with general labor, equipment maintenance, and assisting other crew members, and most importantly, just learn how to do the job safely. Again, as you get experience and can take on the work associated with perhaps more sophisticated or more safety sensitive kinds of procedures, that's how you move up the career progression on a service rig. Again, we've got some links here so that you can learn more about the roles and responsibilities and hear from a service rig worker and how their career progressed for them. Finally, after a well is drilled, the pipe is put in to line the well. Energy services operators come on site and finish cementing the pipe into place to ensure the integrity of the well and engage in other kinds of tasks and processes that helps bring the well into production. And basically what that means is that allows for the tasks that these workers do helps to bring the oil or gas up to surface so that it can be used. So we've used a generic term here, energy services operator, but most likely what you're going to see in job postings is a acknowledgement of the kinds of field service line the operator will be working in. So for example, you're more likely to see a cementing operator role or a coiled tubing role or a hydraulic fracturing operator role. And so, but know that they're all part of sort of the well completions side of the energy services, and the career progression looks very similar. If you come into the role with a Class 5 driver's license, you would most likely start your career as an operator in training. And again, it's going to be very similar to the kinds of work and roles and responsibilities explained previously. You're going to be helping with general labor, assisting the crew, some basic equipment maintenance. You're going to take on some training in order to make sure you're safe. And then your real key role is to learn how to operate things safely on the job by observing and learning from the more experienced crew members. Now, with this particular set of occupations, because the field service, the tasks that are involved in the energy services side of things, the well completion side of things, again, you're using mobile equipment. In order to progress beyond an operator in training role, you have to secure either a Class 3 or Class 1 driver's license. Once you have that under your belt, you can move up the ladder into operator 3, 4, and so on. And really what you're doing here is you're learning how to operate and maintain different kinds of field equipment that would need to be on site in order to complete that well and bring it into production. Like the drilling rig, these field services operate 24/7. And so you're going to be working away from home. Any expenses associated with working away from home are going to be covered by the company. And typically, companies like to assign a crew permanently to a piece of equipment so that the crew really learns the equipment, learns how to work together, and can just operate more efficiently and safely. Again, here there's a link that once you access the slides, you can go to and hear from somebody who has built a career within the energy services operations sector. So truly, while within this very kind of structured organizational environment, I can say that there are really few industries that offer the kind of opportunity to advance your career the way the energy services sector does. And these are just 3 examples on this slide of 3 real-life executives that began their career in some of those field roles that we just talked about in the previous slides. So really the opportunity is endless within the sector to progress. With any kind of job, there are aspects associated with the work that may be more challenging. And so while more challenging, the more prepared you can be to go into sort of some of the unique nature of work environments associated with the energy services, the greater opportunity for you to thrive in that kind of environment. So as we've said over a few slides now, this work tends to be outdoors in all kinds of weather conditions, and it tends to be physical. So this really is thinking about how do you take care of yourself in order to be outside working and being physical. And really it's about having the appropriate clothing and footwear so that you are able to work in all those kind of weather conditions. Employers tend to provide the safety gear but it's also thinking about how do you take care of yourself by getting enough sleep, eating healthy food, and how do you prepare to work physically? Is that stretching? Is that making sure that, on your time off, you continue to be active, not just become a couch potato so that your body goes into shock once you go back into rotation? Those kinds of things will really help you prepare and be successful doing outdoor and physical work. We've also said that there's rotational assignments, which means that you can be working away from home for a few days, a few weeks at a time. And the rotational assignments really differ depending on the work required and what the needs of the employer are. So the best way to kind of thrive in a rotational assignment is to, again, be prepared. Be prepared by asking the employer what the rotation is. And it may change depending on the job that you're doing. And then also to ask, what are their expectations regarding travel to and from the work site? As I said, travel and accommodation are covered, but in some cases, an employer will just cover those costs up front. You just need to show up. In other cases, you may have to pay up front for those travel costs and then expense the employer. So understand what that situation is. So the other thing is to really develop a plan for your time away on your rotation, but also for how you're going to spend your time at home. So this is really proactively developing a plan to ensure that your partner and other family members are supported while you're away. Think about, if your partner gets sick, if a major appliance breaks down, who can they go to? What's their support network at home that they can call on when you're working away? Having those plans in place, even if you don't ever need them, gives you a peace of mind and relieves some stress if a situation is to arise. Other things you want to think about, because it will happen if you're working on rotation, you're likely to miss special events or special occasions. So think about, how are you going to make up for missing that birthday or missing that, special sporting game? If you build in a way to make up and celebrate while you're at home, then that will make you feel like you aren't missing out as much. And certainly the family members that are involved also get that opportunity to celebrate with you when you are at home. So many times people don't think about how to make the most of your time with family and friends and make sure that they're supported while you're away. What does that support network look like? Living away from home. Again, the best way to kind of prepare for living away from home is to know what kind of situation you're coming into. So confirm with your employer, what are the accommodations that are going to be associated with the rotation or the job that you're going into? I would say for the most part, employers really try to do their best to their ability to provide comfortable accommodations, because they know if their workers are comfortable, well-fed, well-rested, it's going to be a more healthy and productive and safe workforce. So comfortable accommodations, especially, camps have changed a whole lot. So there tends to be, at the larger camps in particular, food, entertainment, socializing kinds of events that you can get involved in. They tend to have ways of accommodating cultural needs, whether that's from a food perspective or from a cultural practice perspective. And employers and camp providers also know how important it is to have that cell service and Wi-Fi service so that those that are staying within their accommodations can communicate back home with family and friends. You won't necessarily always be staying in a camp. And a camp can range, as I said, in different sizes and be different. So try and understand as much as possible ahead of going on rotation what your accommodations might look like. And in some cases, it may be a hotel accommodation. And in other cases, there may also be, if you're working out of a service hub where a company has a lot of operations, they may even have company housing that they put you up in while you're working out of that particular service site. Think about what you can do to bring from home to enhance your personal comfort. You know, because you're living and working with the same people, just remember that tolerance and respect can go a long way in making a living away from home situation more comfortable for you. And the other thing is really give yourself time to adjust. In talking to people that have made very successful careers out of working in the energy services sector, they'll admit that those first 1 or 2 rotations really were probably tough, figuring out how to adjust. What does the routine look like? What do I need to bring? How do I make this comfortable? So don't judge your ability to do rotational work or work and live away from home on the first 1 or 2 rotations. Give yourself that time to adjust. Give your family and partner time to adjust at home. And so don't evaluate the situation until you've had a few rotations to really work out those systems. I want to share with you this excellent resource that will really help you prepare to work away from home, not only for you as the potential worker in terms of what is that camp life? How do you build community while you're working away from home and perhaps living in camp? How do you take care of yourself in making sure that you're getting the right food and exercise and sleep? How do you maintain relationships with people at home while you're working away? And how do you plan and make those transitions between work and home successful? But I think the beauty of this survival guide is it also provides discussion guides, videos, checklists for you to do with your partner or your family. So that again, you're coming into a work situation that you acknowledge impacts you as an employee, but your family as well, because you're working away from home, really helps to set up that situation for success. Here's some other resources that we have sourced for you to really kind of support your career research and also understanding more about how to make the most of an energy services career. And then, as I mentioned at the beginning, the purpose of this project really is to connect job seekers with employment in the energy services sector. And we're doing that by hosting hiring events where you as a job seeker interested in the energy services sector can come and meet with employers that have those job opportunities. What we're trying to do in order to make a better match is to provide the employers with information about the skills and qualifications of the talent pool that's out there interested in exploring an energy services career with the different companies. And so in order to help us do that, we ask that you take our job seeker survey. It will ask you about what kinds of qualifications you are bringing to the table, skills and work experience. And remember, we're not asking what your post-secondary degree necessarily is, because there's lots of opportunities to get your foot in the door in the energy services career with transferable skills, with some minimal kinds of training, and just coming into the industry with the right fit and right aptitude. We're also going to, you can learn more at Careers in Energy. And if you look under the news section, you can read more about Bridging the Gap program, hiring events, and find the slides to this recorded session so that you can access the links that we've provided as additional resources. Here's the 2 other recordings that have been made for you to help you better understand what kinds of job opportunities are available in the energy services sector, and also help you prepare for hiring fairs. Please feel free to watch these. They're all about 15 to 30 minutes long, so not a huge commitment, but chock full of information for you. Thanks so very much, and hope that you have found this useful and will help to inform whether or not the energy services sector is right for you.